The capture at the Forest Road. February 19, 1943. Outside the village of Kholm, northwestern Russia. The forest road is frozen hard, rutted by half-tracks and stained black where oil has soaked into the snow. Birch trees stand like pale bones on either side, their branches snapping softly in the wind. Somewhere deeper in the woods, artillery mutters, dull, distant, almost tired. A lone figure stumbles out of the tree line. Senior Sergeant Aleksei Volkov, Red Army Reconnaissance Platoon, is 24 years old and running on fumes. His padded Telegrika jacket is torn at the elbow, his face raw with cold and dried blood. The PPSH-41 submachine gun that should be in his hands is gone. Lost an hour earlier when a mortar blast folded the forest floor and buried his patrol in splinters and smoke. Now it's just him. Volkov doesn't hear the engine until it's too late. A German SD, KFZ. 251 half-track rolls into view from the bend in the road, gray paint dulled by frost. The white Balkenkreuz on its side is smeared with mud. 6 infantrymen ride exposed in the back, boots dangling, rifles slung casually. Another 4 walk ahead, spread loose, helmets low, MP40s cradled like habits. Halt! The shout cracks through the trees. Volkov freezes. He's 10 meters from cover, 40 from the trees behind him. No weapon, no grenade. No choice. Hands rise slowly. The Germans fan out with practiced ease. One kicks his boots apart. Another pats him down, rough and fast, fingers lingering when they find nothing. A Feldwebel, thick neck, frost in his eyebrows. Leans close, breath reeking of tobacco. Aufklärung, he says. Recon. He smiles like it's a private joke. They bind Volkov's wrists with signal wire and march him to the half-track. Snow squeaks under their boots. Someone laughs. Someone else spits. Volkov laughs too. It slips out before he can stop it. A dry, hoarse sound that surprises even him. The Feldwebel's smile vanishes. Was ist das? What's funny? Volkov doesn't answer. He just keeps smiling, eyes half-lidded, breathing slow. Inside his head, everything is very clear. The road, the trees, the spacing between the men, the way the Germans bunch up near the vehicle, cold making them careless. They shove him into the rear compartment of the half-track, bench seats slick with ice. 21 men cluster around, some inside, some just outside the open rear doors, stamping feet, adjusting straps. Rifles lean against the armor. An MP40 hangs from a hook. A crate of steel hand grenades sits unsecured near the bench, wooden handles knocking together as the engine idles. The Feldwebel steps up onto the rear bumper. You'll warm up soon enough, he says in accented Russian. Then we talk. Volkov meets his eyes. He laughs again, this time louder. The Feldwebel turns to strike him. The wire binding Volkov's wrist snaps tight, then loosens. He twists, wrists burning, and feels the sharp give as the poorly twisted knot slips. German signal wire isn't meant for prisoners. It's meant for phones. Volkov moves. His left shoulder slams into the nearest soldier, knocking him sideways into another. His freed right hand grabs the MP40 from the hook, yanks it down, thumb already slapping the safety forward. He drops to one knee, muzzle rising. The first burst tears through the packed compartment at chest height. Men don't even have time to shout. The sound is deafening inside the steel hull, short, brutal, echoing like a hammer on an anvil. Volkov sweeps left to right, controlled, fast. Helmets jerk back. Bodies collapse forward. Someone tries to raise a rifle and disappears in a spray of splintered wood and blood. He pivots, grabs a grenade from the crate, pulls, and throws it out the rear doors into the cluster of men stamping their feet outside. The explosion is flat and final. Volkov is already firing again. 45 seconds is an eternity when every second is full. When the last burst dies, the engine still idles. Steam rises into the frozen air. 21 German soldiers lie tangled in and around the half-track, the snow churned dark beneath them. Volkov stands alone in the wreckage, chest heaving, ears ringing, MP40 smoking in his hands. And the forest is suddenly very quiet. Type continue to generate the next section. Continue. Section 2, 45 seconds of silence. The ringing in Volkov's ears doesn't fade all at once. It comes in waves, a high metallic whine that dulls the world, makes the forest feel far away. His breath rasps loud inside his chest, fogging the air in front of his face. For a moment, he expects return fire. Rifles cracking from the trees, an MG-42 barking from somewhere unseen. Nothing. Only the idle clatter of the half-track's engine and the soft hiss of steam rising from torn bodies into the frozen air. Volkov forces himself to move. Training kicks in where shock threatens to freeze him. He steps over the slumped Feldwebel, checks the road, left, then right. Empty. The bend in the forest road remains quiet, the trees unmoving sentinels. If there were more Germans nearby, they haven't understood what just happened. Or they're afraid to step into it. He drops to one knee and swaps magazines with practice speed, slapping a fresh one home, racking the bolt. The MP40 feels light in his hands compared to the PPSH he's used to, cleaner recoil, slower rate. He counts again without meaning to. 21. He hadn't planned the number. It simply exists now, fixed and heavy. Volkov strips ammunition from the dead quickly, efficiently, ignoring the faces. He takes grenades, a field dressing, a canteen. He pulls a German helmet low over his Ushanka-less head, the steel cold against his scalp. From the Feldwebel's coat pocket he finds folded papers. Maps marked with grease pencil, a timetable. He stuffs them inside his jacket without looking. The half-track is still running. He hesitates only a second before climbing into the driver's seat. He's driven tractors back home, trucks at the front, even a captured Opel once, under fire. This isn't so different. He jams the gear forward, eases the clutch. The vehicle lurches, then rolls. Snow crunches beneath the tracks as Volkov steers off the road and into the trees, branches snapping against the armor. He drives until the engine note changes, until the tracks bog in deep snow and the half-track shudders to a stop. He kills the engine and listens. Still nothing. He abandons the vehicle where it sits, a gray shape half swallowed by white and shadow. Within minutes, the forest begins to erase it. Volkov moves east. Each step is pain now, the adrenaline draining, the cold seeping back in. His hands shake as he checks the map by feel, matching landmarks to memory. Somewhere ahead, his lines. Somewhere behind, German patrols will eventually come, drawn by silence where a unit should be. He walks until the light begins to fade, until the forest turns blue and the temperature drops another notch. Only then does he stop, dig a shallow scrape beneath a fallen pine, and pull his jacket tight. Sleep comes in fragments. Faces intrude. The sound of gunfire repeats, sharp and enclosed. At dawn, he moves again. 3 days later, Volkov collapses into a forward Soviet position near the Lovat River. Boots soaked, eyes sunken, beard rimed with ice. Rifles snap up when he emerges from the trees, and he drops the MP40 at his feet before anyone can shout. A lieutenant with a red star chipped nearly white stares at him, then at the weapon, then back at Volkov's face. Name, the lieutenant demands. Senior Sergeant Aleksei Ivanovich Volkov, he croaks. Reconnaissance platoon, 312th Rifle Division. They take him in, wrap him in a blanket that smells of smoke and sweat. Someone pushes a tin cup of tea into his hands. It burns his tongue and he doesn't care. The report is written that night by lantern light. At first, they think it's exaggerated. 21 Germans? Captured. Unarmed? The political officer's eyebrow climbs steadily as the account is read aloud. But then the maps are examined. The Feldwebel's papers match German dispositions they've been trying to confirm for weeks. A patrol sent to the forest road finds the abandoned half-track, the bodies frozen where they fell. The count is accurate. Volkov is summoned to regimental headquarters 2 days later. He stands stiffly, still thin, still hollow-eyed, while officers argue in low voices around a scarred wooden table. Someone mentions fearlessness. Someone else says luck. Another says desperation. The colonel, a heavy-set man with tired eyes, listens in silence. Finally, he looks up at Volkov. "Why did you laugh?" he asks. Volkov thinks of the wire cutting into his wrists, of the careless knot, of the way the Germans had bunched together against the cold, thinking the moment was already theirs. "Because they thought it was over," he says. "And it wasn't." The colonel nods once. The story spreads anyway, faster than orders or corrections can stop it. By the time Volkov returns to the line, men are already whispering about him. Some embellish it, say he smiled the whole time, that he sang, that he used only one magazine. Volkov doesn't correct them. He cleans his weapon, checks his kit, waits for the next patrol. Weeks later, a German intelligence summary circulates through Army Group North. It mentions increased partisan activity, ambushes near forest roads, exceptional boldness by Soviet reconnaissance elements. No names are given, no numbers, but somewhere in the frozen woods outside Kholm, the memory lingers, of a prisoner who laughed, and in less than a minute turned certainty into silence. The man the forest remembered. March 1943. The snow begins to soften, but the forest does not forgive. Volkov is back where he belongs, forward of the line, ahead of the rifles and mortars, moving through ground that belongs to no one for long. The war here is close and intimate. Patrols slip past each other at night, boots wrapped in rags, breath held, fingers numb on triggers. Men die without witnesses. Others survive by instinct alone. And Volkov has changed. It's not something he announces or even recognizes at first. It shows in small things. How he pauses before crossing a clearing, how his eyes track shadows instead of shapes, how he listens longer than the others before giving the signal to move. The 45 seconds on the forest road didn't make him fearless. They made him precise. His platoon commander, Lieutenant Sergei Antonov, watches him carefully. Antonov is a former schoolteacher, thin and sharp-nosed. His uniform perpetually too clean for the work they do. He doesn't believe in legends, but he believes in results, and Volkov delivers them. On the night of March 11th, Volkov leads a four-man patrol toward a German supply spur feeding the Demyansk pocket. The air smells of thawing earth and cordite. Somewhere ahead, a sentry coughs. Volkov raises a fist. They freeze. He slides forward alone, belly to the ground, MP-40 slung across his back, a knife cold against his ribs. The German is young, 18, maybe 19, standing beneath a pine, stamping his feet against the cold. His rifle is slung. His helmet is pushed back just enough to show damp hair. Volkov is on him in 3 seconds. The knife goes in clean under the ribs, angled up. The sentry's breath leaves him in a wet sigh, eyes wide with surprise rather than pain. Volkov lowers him gently into the snow, closes his eyes with 2 fingers. Then he signals the others forward. The raid lasts less than 10 minutes. They destroy 2 fuel trucks, cut phone lines, leave behind confusion and smoke. By the time German flares rise, the Soviets are already ghosts moving back into the trees. Back at the line, Antonov lights a cigarette with shaking hands. "You move like you already know where they'll be," he says quietly. Volkov shrugs. "They stand where it's easiest," he answers. "So do we." Word continues to spread, not as a boast, as a warning. German patrols begin doubling sentries in the sector. Officers insist on tighter spacing, stricter searches. Prisoners are bound with rope now, not wire. The forest road outside Kholm is avoided entirely after dark. It doesn't help. On April 2nd, a German courier detachment disappears along a frozen stream. On April 17th, an MG team is found dead in a shell crater, their weapon untouched, throats cut. In after-action reports, phrases repeat. Surprised at close range, enemy demonstrated exceptional audacity. Engagement duration extremely short. No one writes 45 seconds, but everyone remembers it. Late April brings mud and misery. The front shifts by meters, paid for in blood. During a dawn attack near a nameless ridge, Volkov's platoon is pinned by machine gun fire from a concealed bunker. Men press into the earth, faces smeared with wet soil, bullets cracking overhead like snapped twigs. Antonov crawls up beside Volkov. "We can't flank it," he shouts over the noise. "Too open." Volkov peers through the haze. He sees the bunker's firing slit, the rhythm of the gun, the brief pauses as the barrel heats. He smells burned powder and wet wood. "I can," he says. Antonov grips his sleeve. "Alone?" Volkov nods. He moves when the gun fires, timing his dash to the thunder of the MG-42. He runs bent low, boots slipping in the mud, lungs burning. A round clips his pack but doesn't slow him. He reaches the blind spot beneath the bunker's embrasure and pulls a grenade free. He doesn't throw it. He waits. Inside, the machine gun pauses. Someone laughs, short, confident. The sound carries through the firing slit. Volkov smiles despite himself. He pulls the pin and drops the grenade through the opening. The explosion lifts the bunker's roof like a kicked door. Smoke and debris billow out. The gun goes silent. When the attack resumes, the ridge falls within minutes. Antonov finds Volkov afterward sitting in the mud, reloading with hands that won't quite stop shaking. "You laughed again," Antonov says. Volkov looks up at him, surprised. "Did I?" That night, alone in a dugout lit by a single candle, Volkov cleans his weapons slowly. The faces come back when he closes his eyes, not just Germans now, but his own, too. Men he's led forward. Men who didn't follow him back. He wonders how long a man can live inside moments like that, compressed, violent, decisive, before they begin to live inside him. Outside, the forest creaks as the ice finally breaks its hold. And somewhere across the lines, German soldiers learn a new habit without knowing why. When they capture a man in a torn Soviet jacket who smiles instead of begging, they don't bring him in alive. 45 seconds follow him. May 1943. The forests thin, the fighting thickens. Volkov's unit is pulled south as the front realigns, away from Kholm and toward ground that smells less of pine and more of cordite and rot. Villages here are splintered things. Chimneys standing alone, wells choked with debris, walls riddled until they resemble lace. The war has learned this land well. Volkov carries a different weight now. Not rank, he is still a senior sergeant, but expectation. Men watch him before patrols, waiting to see how he adjusts his straps, how he scans the horizon. When he speaks, they listen even when he says very little. And the Germans are listening too. Intercepted radio traffic mentions the Laughing Scout. No name, just a description passed in half-joking tones between units that have lost men near forest roads and river crossings. Intelligence officers dismiss it as folklore, the kind soldiers invent to give shape to fear. Fear doesn't care what you call it. May 22, 1943. Dusk near the Redaya River. Volkov is part of a reconnaissance push probing a newly established German outpost. The approach is open, low reeds, shallow water, nowhere to hide once the light fades. Antonov leads this one himself, nerves tight, jaw clenched. They make it to within 30 meters when a flare bursts overhead. White light washes the riverbank. Shouts erupt. A German MG team swings its barrel down, the first rounds chewing water into fountains. "Down!" Antonov yells. Men hit the mud. One doesn't move again. The Germans advance aggressively, confident now, spreading out, herding the Soviets against the river. Volkov crawls backward, water soaking his sleeves, mind racing. This is wrong. Too fast. Too neat. They're trying to take prisoners. A boot slams into Volkov's ribs. He grunts, rolls onto his back, and finds a rifle muzzle inches from his face. A young unteroffizier shouts something he doesn't catch, yanks Volkov upright, twists his arms behind him. Wire bites into his wrists. For a heartbeat, time folds. The forest road. The half-track. The laughter. The German leans close, breathing hard. "No tricks," he says in broken Russian. "We know about you." Volkov's lips twitch. He doesn't laugh this time. They march him toward the riverbank where more Germans are gathering, weapons slung loose now, adrenaline ebbing into satisfaction. Antonov and the others are on their knees nearby, guarded but alive. Volkov watches spacing, counts steps, notes where rifles hang. When the unteroffizier turns to speak to his superior, Volkov drops his weight, twists hard, and rams his elbow back. Bone cracks. The wire stretches, doesn't break, but it loosens enough. He surges forward, slams into the nearest man, takes his MP40, fires point blank. Chaos detonates. The riverbank becomes a storm of sound and movement. Shouts, muzzle flashes, bodies colliding in the dark. Volkov fires short bursts, moving constantly, never staying where he was a second ago. He kicks a fallen rifle away, shoves Antonov toward the reeds. "Run!" he yells. Antonov hesitates only long enough to drag a wounded man with him. Volkov throws his last grenade at the cluster forming near the flare pole. The blast snuffs the light and shreds the moment. Darkness crashes back in. He runs. Bullets snap past him as he plunges into the river, water swallowing the noise. He swims under, lungs burning, comes up gasping among the reeds on the far bank. Shapes move, confused, firing at shadows that aren't there. Volkov crawls until his arms fail him. He doesn't count the dead this time. The aftermath is messy. The patrol loses 2 men. The Germans lose more, though no one agrees on how many. What matters is this: Antonov survives. The wounded man survives. And the story grows sharper edges. 45 seconds. Someone whispers later, like it's a spell. Volkov doesn't correct them. In June, orders arrive transferring him to a different formation. Higher command wants him where breakthroughs are planned, where initiative matters more than numbers. Antonov shakes his hand hard before they part. "Try not to laugh so much," Antonov says, half smiling. Volkov almost smiles back. That night, alone, he unwraps his hands and studies the scars left by wire and rope. They've healed into pale lines that will never quite fade. He wonders what the Germans see when they remember him. A madman? A ghost? Or simply a reminder that capture, in this war, is never the end of the story. Ahead lies summer. Ahead lies battles that will dwarf forest roads and riverbanks. And somewhere in them, 45 seconds will follow Aleksei Volkov like a shadow, waiting for the moment it must speak again. Type continue to generate the next section. Continue. Section 5. The last time he laughed. July 10, 1943. Southern shoulder of the Kursk salient. The air vibrates before the first shell lands. Volkov lies pressed into the earth as the horizon flashes orange and white, the sound rolling over him in physical waves. This is a different war now, open ground, massed armor, artillery measured in the thousands. The forests are behind him. There is nowhere to disappear. He has been reassigned to an assault reconnaissance detachment attached to a rifle regiment advancing behind the first armor wave. Their job is brutal and simple. Identify weak points, eliminate strong points before they stall the attack, keep momentum alive. Volkov moves with a squad of men he barely knows. Faces tight, eyes rimmed red from dust and lack of sleep. They trust him anyway. Word has traveled this far. A German trench line emerges through the smoke. Zigzag scars cut into the steppe. Machine guns flashing from earthen nests. The Soviet artillery lifts, and suddenly the world rushes back in. Rifle fire, screams, the thump of mortars. Volkov runs crouched, timing his movement to the crashes around him. He reaches the trench edge and drops in among gray shapes and flailing arms. The fighting is immediate, savage, bayonets, rifle butts, pistols fired so close they burn skin. A German soldier lunges at him. Volkov shoots him twice and steps past as the body falls. Another grabs his sleeve. Volkov twists, breaks free, keeps moving. They clear the first segment in under a minute. Then the counterattack hits. German stormtroops surge from a communication trench, throwing grenades, firing from the hip. Volkov's squad is cut in half in seconds. Men drop screaming. The trench fills with smoke and dust, visibility collapsing to arm's length. Volkov ducks into a dugout as a grenade detonates where he stood. His ears ring. His vision narrows. When he stumbles back out, there are Germans everywhere. Hands seize him. He fights, elbows and knees, but a rifle slams into his temple. The world spins and snaps back into focus on his knees in the trench. Wrists bound, this time with rope, thick and secure. A German officer stands over him, pistol drawn. He's older, a Hauptmann, his uniform immaculate despite the chaos. He studies Volkov's face with clinical interest. "So," he says in careful Russian, "you are the one." Volkov tastes blood. The trench smells of earth and cordite and fear. The Hauptmann gestures with his pistol. "You have caused us inconvenience." Around them, German soldiers gather, faces hard, wary. They don't crowd him. They've learned that lesson. The officer leans closer. "It ends now." Volkov meets his eyes, and for the first time in months, something breaks loose in his chest. He laughs. It isn't loud. It isn't mocking. It's exhausted and raw and unstoppable, bubbling out of him as the sound of artillery fades into a distant roar. The Hauptmann's expression tightens. He raises the pistol. Volkov moves anyway. He lunges forward, driving his shoulder into the officer's legs. The shot goes wide. Men shout. Someone fires. Volkov crashes into the trench wall, pain flaring, but he keeps twisting, rolling, dragging two men down with him. A grenade explodes somewhere close, collapsing part of the trench. Dirt and bodies rain down. Smoke chokes the air. When it clears, Volkov is gone. They find the rope later, frayed and snapped, half buried in the dirt. No one sees exactly how he escapes. Survivors tell different versions. Some say he slipped into a collapsed sap. Others swear he charged straight through gunfire and vanished into the smoke. What matters is that he makes it back. He staggers into Soviet lines at dusk, uniform torn, one arm hanging useless, blood drying dark along his face. Medics catch him as his legs finally give out. He wakes 2 days later in a field hospital, the battle still rumbling in the distance. His head is bandaged. His arm is splinted. A nurse tells him he's lucky. A doctor says he shouldn't be alive. Volkov stares at the canvas ceiling and listens to the guns. He doesn't laugh again. Weeks later, after Kursk has burned itself out, a citation is read over him in a quiet tent. It speaks of courage, initiative, destruction of enemy personnel. There is talk of a medal. Volkov barely hears it. He is thinking about that trench, about the officer's eyes, about how close the end felt, about how thin the line between fear and laughter really is. The war will continue without asking him how he feels about it. And somewhere, in German units that fought on the southern shoulder of Kursk, a story will circulate about a captured Soviet sergeant who laughed in a trench and then vanished into smoke. What remains after the smoke? August 1943. A rear area clearing station east of Belgorod. The war has moved on, but it hasn't loosened its grip. Volkov sits on an upturned ammunition crate outside a canvas tent, left arm still bound in a sling, fingers flexing slowly as if relearning their purpose. The sounds around him are different now. Less constant thunder, more distant irregular bursts. Flies buzz. Men talk quietly. Somewhere a truck backfires. Kursk is over. No one calls it a victory the way they imagined it would be. It's spoken of instead like a storm that passed. Destructive, exhausting, leaving wreckage in every direction. Units are under strength. Faces are unfamiliar. The ground itself seems bruised. An officer from Army headquarters arrives one afternoon with papers and a photographer Volkov pointedly ignores. The citation is read again, more formally this time. Words like exceptional bravery and decisive action are spoken with rehearsed clarity. When it's done, the officer hesitates. There are reports, he says carefully. From the enemy side. Interrogations. They mention you. Volkov looks up for the first time. By name? No, the officer admits. But the description is consistent. He doesn't say laughing, but it hangs between them anyway. That evening, Antonov finds Volkov by chance. Transferred, wounded but alive, thinner than before. They embrace awkwardly, men and used to gestures like that. You look terrible, Antonov says. So do you, Volkov answers. They sit together as the sun lowers, turning the dust gold. For a long time they say nothing. Finally, Antonov speaks. They think you enjoy it, he says quietly. The Germans. Some of ours too. Volkov watches a column of smoke rise on the horizon, slow and steady. They're wrong, he says. I laugh because if I don't, I freeze. Or hesitate. Antonov nods. He understands more than he lets on. Volkov returns to the front that autumn, but something has shifted. He still leads patrols. He still fights with the same precision. But the reckless edge is gone. The laughter never comes back. In November, during a night action near the Dnieper, his unit overruns a German position and captures several prisoners. One of them, a corporal with shaking hands, locks eyes with Volkov and goes pale. The man whispers, "Please." Volkov looks at him for a long moment. Then he turns away. Orders are orders. The prisoners are sent back. No one is harmed. The forest remains silent. Later, alone, Volkov realizes something with a strange, almost physical clarity. The 45 seconds that defined him no longer belong to him. They've become a story, passed from mouth to mouth, altered and sharpened until it barely resembles the truth. The truth is smaller. The truth is wire tied badly in the cold. Men standing too close together. A moment where action mattered more than thought. He carries that truth quietly for the rest of the war. Years later, long after uniforms are folded away, long after maps are replaced by fields and roads with new names, Volkov will be asked about it by a young officer with curious eyes. Is it true? The officer asks. That you were captured and killed 21 men in less than a minute? Volkov considers the question. Yes, he says finally. It's true. Why did you laugh? The officer presses. Volkov looks out the window at a world no longer at war. Because they stopped seeing me as dangerous, he says. And for 45 seconds, that mistake was theirs. He never adds anything else. Because some moments don't need explanation, only remembrance. ND.